Yo guys, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Booty Boy Wrestling Fan interview. Today I'm with a special guest, Shawn Donovan. How's it going today?
I'm very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for asking. So are you holding up well during this quarantine?
Oh yeah, doing the best that anybody can do in this time. This is a tough life for everybody right now. Everybody has to be a little bit creative to stay ahead of their game mentally, emotionally, and of course, physically. So, doing the best I can, getting my workouts from home in every day, and just doing the best I can to stay healthy mentally and emotionally like everybody else.
Now, you're a professional wrestler. How long have you been in the wrestling business?
This is, well, I mean, if you want to consider what's going on in the world right now, this would be considered my 19th year. I started in early 2001.
Wow, that's a long time.
Very long.
Is there anything that you want to do when hopefully COVID-19 ends anytime soon? What are your goals when wrestling gets back?
I think my goals are probably the same as everybody else, just to get back on track with, goals that I had set for myself prior to this pandemic and, looking to see what different things I can do. In the time off, I've been thinking of a lot of different ideas, trying to see where I want to take myself in some different directions, creating a little bit more of an updated look for myself. So, anyone that's in the wrestling business right now on the independents, this is the perfect time to take advantage of resting your body a little bit if you're, performing at a high level like I multiple shows and being able to start getting a little bit creative and see where you want to take your brand to the next chapter when all this comes back. So, I think it's also hard because no one knows when quote unquote normalcy will really be normal and what it will look like for sports and entertainment, after this pandemic is over, because I do believe that, there's going to be some, different things going on in the world when, this is all over, but that doesn't mean that new normal is going to, be the same as what it was before. So, what that looks like for professional wrestling and sporting events, we have to take it as a case by case basis, but you got to stay ahead of the curve and be ready.
Now, since you've been in wrestling for over 19 years, how many promotions have you worked, would you say? Like, what's the number?
It's kind of hard to say because there's been so many. Wrestling is more abundant now than it was when I started. I would probably say, give or take, I want to say anywhere between 60 and maybe 70, promotions in total, maybe more. And that's only exploded in the last 4 or 5 years for me as wrestling has, taken off and become a little bit more mainstream and recognized, because of social media. I've been able to find new promotions and, promotions that are professionally ran to work with. When I started there was no social media and, there were not as many promotions out there to work with. So I would probably give or take that number.
Now, a while back, you were on WWE Raw. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, that's a very incredible experience. Not the first time I've ever, done what they call extra work for WWE. I did it for many, many years, prior to this. I back in 2004, I did have a dark match, what they call dark matches back in the day, which were, they put on some filler matches as fans were entering the arena. I've done some, backstage skits here and there, but this was a pretty cool special one. Was brought in with a number of other extra talent to partake in a segment that we were all getting checked out by the doctor, and I guess some things had changed within the script that night or whatever they were putting together, and one of the agents by the name of Pat Buck, the owner of WrestlePro. The producer that was there at the time. Obviously, things have changed a little bit now, and when things go back to normal, I hope he and everyone else, finds their way back. But WrestlePro being my home promotion and things of that nature, they were looking for someone, I guess, for Andrade that fit my size and build, and Pat had an idea for it and passed my physical and was given that opportunity.
Awesome. So you work with WrestlePro, and you're a top guy on that company. Um, is WrestlePro part of your home in wrestling?
Yes. WrestlePro is my home company. That is the company that I put first on the map when it comes to dates and anything involving, because when I first started out, I trained with a local promotion out of New Jersey called the IWF. That's where I got my start, and I put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into that school, into that promotion, and unfortunately, for some time comes where you have to leave for different circumstances. For myself, the owner and promoter decided it was time to close up and move on from the world of professional wrestling, and through some mutual friends that had left there prior, had said, hey, you might want to come down to WrestlePro. Things were changing there at the time. I came down. I introduced myself to Pat at the time, who he and I never crossed paths, so we didn't know one another. But like anything in life, sometimes you have to take a step back to take two steps forward. So I went back from square one, and I just you know was given the opportunity to come and train with them, and literally just show them what I can offer, what I can do. And 4.5 years later, here I am, grinding. I absolutely love the promotion. I love the talent and the roster that we have. I think pound for pound, our homegrown roster and some guys that have come in from years prior, I think we have the ability to compete with anyone. And I think we're going to do just that, when this world comes back to whatever normal there is. But yeah, that is my home company, and that will be my home company.
Now, back in January, your tag team partner Dan Moth
Hmm.
signed with Ring of Honor, and you had a final match at WrestlePro with him.
Hmm.
Your promo that you cut on him was amazing. I just want to give you props for that. Can you
Thank
tell us more about like how much emotion went into cutting that promo?
Yeah, so I've gotten to know Danny. Danny and I we crossed paths, never crossed paths in all of our years of wrestling. He at one time was a very top guy for a promotion called Jersey All Pro Wrestling, which they were kind of the renegade promotion on the East Coast. It seemed like at that time, and he and I only started, he started wrestling about 4 or 5 years prior to me, but it seemed like at the time nobody ever went in Jersey All Pro, and nobody from Jersey All Pro kind of went out into the other areas. So I actually crossed paths with Danny Moth once at the gym, and when I came to WrestlePro was when I really started to get to know him, and we just started talking about our careers one day, and just found out that our style and what we grew up watching was very, very similar to what we love. And that's kind of how our friendship kind of grew from it. So you know getting to know him, work with him, you know being able to sit down, have dinner with him and his family over the last number of years is something that I hold very near and dear to my heart, because in life, and especially more in professional wrestling, I would venture to say that you can count your best friends in the business on less than one hand. And that's not to be disrespectful or anything like that. Just, our world, I hate to say it, it can be very cutthroat. And those that say are really your friends sometimes really aren't. And, but Danny has always been there for me, always treated me with respect, and I think I've done exactly the same. So, that promo was very interesting because that night a number of WrestlePro roster members were shooting little videos to put as a package together for Danny that was being shown at the event that night, and eventually it was put on social media. But there was a lot of emotions going through me, and I wasn't going to do a promo for that, but I was amped up and I had a lot of emotion, and I always believe that reality is what sells. Anyone can be in character and do an interview or a promo, but when it's real, you'll feel it. And me, I didn't expect that to be about 5.5 minutes long. Promo should never be that long, but and I actually toyed with releasing that promo because it was so long. But I just said, hey, you know what? This is me. This is real, and let's build some additional emotion around this because it's going to amp us up. When we go into this match a little bit more, and had no idea that video would get as much play and shares as it did. So again, pro wrestling has to be real for it to work, and I know that when there's reality involved, the story's even better.
Now, when you were a tag team, excuse me, who came up with the name Sent to Slaughter?
Actually, that was Danny. He and I we work out together because at the same gym because we live very close to one another. And when we decided to try and get this off the ground, we were just working out one day, and he had been watching some different videos, and we were trying to put some things together. And there were some things that were said in some promos that we did, and he was just saying something one day, and I told him, "Wait a minute." I said, "Say that again." And he said, "Sent. We're sent from hell. We're sent to slaughter. We're sent to slaughter people." And I said, "That's it. That's the name." And sometimes you can sit down and you can think of ideas all you want, and it never comes to fruition or it never comes out the right way. And sometimes the best things come from when it's off the cuff. And that's what happened. So that's where the name came from.
How would you describe yourself? Like, let me ask you this question. Who is Shawn Donovan?
Elaborate a little bit more as the character or me or...
Yeah, like your character. Like, what created Shawn Donovan?
Well, a variety of different things, I think, go into your character as you evolve over the years. And reality really says that your character really should just be you with the volume turned all the way up. For me, that is, a culmination, where I am right now as Shawn Donovan is a culmination of a lot of different things that have gone on, not just behind the scenes in my personal life, but also in doors that were closed on me in wrestling and struggles that I've gone through and, opinions that I have on things. And, when I take a lot of those into consideration and just sitting down and formulating things and just knowing what my real personality is, I just turn that all the way up. And for me, Shawn Donovan is a rough, rugged, around the edges, no BS, ground and pound, old school wrestler. I grew up on the way wrestling was for me in the late 70s and the 80s, and that realism, just old school, simple style, really always resonated with me. And you have a lot of professional wrestlers today that are doing some incredible things in the ring from a acrobatic perspective, power perspective. But the business has changed and it's evolved. And I understand I have to evolve with the times too. But I still truly believe in my heart that that old school style can still be done today, where a lot of people aren't doing it because they may not know how to do it, but mixed with a new style. So that's what I would venture to say is old school with a new style, and that's what I am. I've always been opinionated as well, sometimes to a fault. So that sometimes comes out a lot in my promos too. But That's who I am, and I stand by who I am 100%.
Now, when you do your entrance, you come out with a chain.
Hmm.
What is the chain come into play? Like, why?
So the chain is an homage to one of my all-time favorites, Bruiser Brody. Um, I have a little bit of that off the cuff style where you don't know what I'm gonna do. Um, but the chain represents something old school. You don't see guys really using the chain a lot. They might come out with it, but they don't use it. They don't know how to use it, don't know where to use it. That's part of an evolution to my character. And that's something that, as an idea, I've been working on for when wrestling returns. That chain is probably going to get involved a lot more in what I do, but how I do it is going to be left up to when people see it.
So you mentioned, you said
But to
you.
give, but to give you another perspective too, the reason for the chain, in a emotional mental capacity, uh, there's a term, breaking the chains. And for me, that chain also each link on that chain represents a facet of my career that I either held myself back or a door that was closed on me. So, for me, that chain has a little bit of an emotional perspective for it too. And it's all going to come out, as the character evolves.
Wow, I like that. That's really good. Um, Now, when you said earlier you've been in wrestling for 19 years,
Hmm.
how long do you plan on being in the professional wrestling business?
Uh, as long as the business will allow me to be in it. I always say, and it's always been said that, professional wrestling doesn't owe the performer anything. You owe it to the sport of professional wrestling to show what can be done and what you can do in that work to entertain individuals. For myself, I'd like to continue in the ring as long as my body will allow me to continue. There is such a thing as what we call a bump card. And you'll know when you've taken that last bump. Your body will tell you. But as I've gotten older, I do a lot of stretching and I do a lot more conditioning to keep my body in shape, because I'd like to think that I can get in the ring with someone half my age and make them tired. So, but once my days in the ring are over, I would love to continue training. Up and coming talent. I would love to do other things that keep me involved in the business itself, because it is a passion, it is a love, and it's something that I'm never going to stop, loving.
Um, your social media tag is the Grizzled something. I don't want
Grizzled enhanced veteran.
to. Can you describe that? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah. So grizzled is a very old school term, sometimes used for those that have been around in a business, whether it's wrestling or not, for a long time, but has a little bit of bitterness in them. And also, grizzle could be, the fact that you've just been doing it for so long, your body conforms to it, your mental ability conforms to it. Veteran, obviously, I would consider myself a veteran. I've been doing this for a long time, been through a lot of things. The enhancement part, and that whole entire term is more or less of a playful knock on myself, enhancement, because for most of my career, I have been someone that has always had the enviable task of making everybody else look good, where the spotlight is on them. Always that, what's the word I'm looking for? Can't find the word, but if you get what I'm saying, I'm the guy that makes everybody else look good. Um, but no more of that. Now it's time for me. And in a way, I've never been a selfish performer. Uh, but sometimes in our world, sometimes you got to put yourself first. So that tag is just a little bit of a fun knock, you know.
Um, when people watch this interview, is there a match or a moment in your career that you would like people to go back and watch? Like they can look up more stuff about you?
Sure, yeah. I mean, obviously, it hasn't been released yet on social media platforms like YouTube, but WrestlePro does have the IWTV, um, page. On there is the November show where I had the match with Danny Moth, and I would consider that's probably one of the top matches of my career. To be able to go into that match with someone like him and to be able to go 30 minutes, I think told a lot of people that I can be a player in wrestling. But if people want to check out any of my work, I'm constantly uploading content on my YouTube channel, which is just find Shawn Donovan. Sadly, a lot of places that I do independent wrestling work for, either they have trouble getting that footage, or they're not interested in letting the performers use that footage, which is also why I do not work for said promotions any longer, because I need to get something out of it. But within that too, I did some segments in the ring with the Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase at one point, with Jake the Snake Roberts, which are some fun plays on my character at the time. And I really loved those segments and being able to do those, because those were two icons that I grew up idolizing when I was young. So to be able to have that is really special. So, but any of my work is near and dear to my heart, because I put a lot of hard work and effort into those matches, and into my look. So just find me on YouTube.
Um, back on the like your wrestling gear, your boots are kind of old school wrestling boots.
Yep.
Um, how would you describe those? Like I've never seen anyone else wear them, but I think they're pretty cool.
I appreciate it. Again, it's really just taking a look at the journeymen of wrestling from yesteryear, so to speak, and really pulling ideas from them. I'm also someone that is extremely anal when it comes to my gear and making my gear stand out and look as professional as possible. So I was looking at, someone's boots one day, and I said, looks pretty cool, but what if I just do the, one stripe on the back? And then now I've started, again, planning for when wrestling comes back. I've got a couple new pairs that are different colors that are not used to seeing, and again, just trying to find different ways to make my look stand out above everyone else's. Because if you look at today's wrestling too, you don't see as many guys wearing boots anymore. A lot have either transitioned or have gone with the kick pads look. Not my style. So yeah, any way that I can find ways to stand out and use the tools from the yesteryear of professional wrestlers to stand out, that's my goal.
Where would you like to be? Like whether it's a company or somewhere in the world of wrestling, where would you like to be in, let's say, 5 years?
Uh, it's hard to say. I can't pinpoint a certain company or things of that nature. Obviously, I'm just going to continue grinding and doing what I have to do in order to make it in the world of professional wrestling. And obviously, if a bigger platform comes into play, it's up for me to entertain that. Obviously, but the goal is to continue to grow my brand, and if I can eventually find my way to a national platform, then I'd love to do that.
Is there anything that you would like to talk about specifically in wrestling? Any questions that you have for me?
No, I really just want to say thank you for having me on your platform, and hopefully it grows, and hopefully anyone watching this, might get something out of it. The only thing I would say is to anyone watching it, please go to my YouTube channel that I just started a little web series called Diary with a Messiah that chronicles my wrestling career, and I, through my wrestling career, I've been able to give a lot of feedback and a lot of different tips to those that are in wrestling or coming up in wrestling. So that's pretty much it.
Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe, like, comment, share, and yeah, see you in the next one.
Peace. Thank you very much.